Welcome back to Wired for Woo. My name is Deanna,
And I'm Angelique.
and we're two professional psychic mediums and dear friends who love to chat about all things life, love, woo woo, and everything in between. We know how insane and wild this human ride can be, so we're here to share some of our experiences, insights, ponderings, and a lot of laughs along the way to hopefully help you feel connected and supported as you walk your own unique path.
And thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoy Wired for Where, we deeply appreciate it. If you could like and subscribe to our podcast, your support helps us continue to share our stories, insights, and all the magic along the way. We are so grateful to have you with us on this amazing journey because you have to sing that
Woo!
part.
Journey.
Hmm.
Yeah. That's all we
And
had today, folks.
that's it. That's it. Now. So
No.
tonight we are talking about a very exciting subject. Basically, like, what the hell is self-love anyway?
God, it is such a
Self-love.
buzzword right now, too.
It is
Uh,
a buzzword.
I feel
It
like
really is.
my social media is just like self-love, self-love, self-love. And so much of it is just like some of it has substance, but a lot of it doesn't. And a lot of it
It's
is, I
fluffity
think,
fluff fluff.
oh, it's so fluffy.
I
It's so
know.
fluffy. But I think it's a great topic because I mean, how often does this come up in readings too? Like this
All
actually
the
looks
time.
like and the need
All
for
the
it.
time. Yeah,
Constant.
I
I
know.
know you and I have talked before, and it might have even come up in our soul contracts episode last month, but like I feel like self-love is like my core lesson in this life. At least up to this point, self-love I feel like
Yeah.
has been like the core of what all of my like life's challenges and experiences have kind of been like guiding me to, which is
Yeah.
really funny when like I go on social media and then it's like self-love is like bubble baths and like treat yourself and like
I know.
you
Get a
know
massage. I mean, I think that's part of it. I think self-care and like those aspects of doing those things for yourself are a part of self-love because a lot of times I think we put ourselves second,
yeah
to a lot of other aspects of our life. So I think when you do put yourself first and I want to say some self-care, whether it's bubble baths or getting yourself a massage, I think that's part of it. But I mean, what is it to you on the deeper level of like where people are kind of missing the mark and beyond the surface, the buzzwords? What does self-love for you mean? Like if
yeah
you could define it in your little world of Deanna,
in
um,
my little world of Deanna. I you know what
your little beautiful world of Deanna.
I
What
just
does
like I kind of love I'm gonna go live there now. I didn't know I could go live there.
I know
um
it's filled with lots of self-love.
there's just so much of it overflowing. um I mean, I guess like if I wanted to like simplify it, I think to me self-love is anything that is the opposite of self-abandonment. Like I think that's kind of how I would phrase it. Like if like to me, so, oh God, it's so hard because self-love is so expansive and it touches everything. But I think when I'm seeing like a lot of what's being branded as self-love, because I agree, like I am the queen of treat yourself to a massage and a pedicure and a that chocolate bar you really want and an
I
ice
was gonna
cream.
say, I'm gonna get myself. I have been obsessed with like nothing but bun cakes lately.
Yeah.
So that has been my self-loveness.
Oh my God.
That's been my treat. But that's completely I'm sidebarring. But yeah.
But I feel like it's like, and that's a piece that can be a piece
Yeah.
of it, right? Like, because like it's so hard because I think a lot of the things, like to your point, I think self-care and self-love are they're interconnected, but I don't know. Like, I think self-care is like 1/100th of what self-love actually looks like. If we're talking about it as like a treat yourself or like what I want to say is self-love almost never in my experience is the easy thing to do. Like it's almost never
Yeah.
the like, and so much of what I've experienced as self-love doesn't actually feel pleasant, like doesn't feel good in the moment. Now, long term, it probably produces better results or like so much of self-love for me like has come through. I think I didn't really fully and like understand what self-love really encompassed for me
Hmm.
until I went through a couple of years ago when I had to sell my house. I had to sell my house because, and I didn't want to. It was just like I couldn't afford it anymore because of inflation and all this stuff. And there were some income changes. And I remember being so brokenhearted about losing my house. And it was an act of self-love for me to say, Deanna, we can't do this anymore. So it was
Yeah.
kind of like being with myself fully in not trying to talk myself out of how I felt, not trying to make myself like almost like self-love in a way. I think that's what I'm trying to get. I'm like rambling to try and figure out what my point is here. But I guess it's like to me when I associate things with like so like when I think self-care, like it definitely to me, and I know that can also encompass a whole range of different kinds of things. But like when I'm thinking like the bubble baths or the really pleasant, fun, feel-good things, like for me, a lot of times self-care has been, or self-love has looked like not trying to make myself feel better and just being an acceptance of where I'm at. And it's that's feels more like receiving love for me than like, oh, you're sad, like let's go do this thing. Like for me, self-love has been more deeply embodied when I recognize like actually to love myself looks like be where you are. It is a big sad moment and have it and like not trying to shift myself out of that. What does
Yeah.
self-love look like for you? Like, how would you define
Yeah,
that?
I mean, I kind of love that you were saying it's the opposite of self-abandonment because I feel like um when I think of self-love, I think the first time like I really knew how to define what it was for me was like, oh my God, I am having a relationship with myself,
Mm-hmm.
first and foremost. Because I think I was always looking for validation or um I want to say exterior validation in every aspect of my life, and I want to say I always call myself a recovering people pleaser, you know, and
I think we all relate to that one.
it and part of my journey, a lot of it was learning boundaries and things like that, but um, for me, it was really just understanding what it meant to have a relationship with myself first and foremost in all of those buckets of self-acceptance, self-care, learning boundaries. I feel like those were all like really big defining. And on self-awareness, I want to say as the overarching umbrella, um, was a big one for
Yeah.
me. And I could probably pinpoint a bunch of changing moments in my life. I want to say the end of my marriage and learning to, create stronger boundaries for myself, like this isn't okay, or, like this is like starting to speak up for myself and communicating. I want to say a lot of throat chakra cleansing and,
Mm-hmm.
and just speaking up and, just I want to say really communicating the things that I want to say where I was more of a yes man or over promising, over under delivering, that kind of thing. Like again, that people pleaser
Mm-hmm.
and learning to say no, I think probably for me was like a really big shifty shift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess that kind of like to me, I feel like too, it's like at different points of your journey or different points of life. Like
Yeah.
self-love, I feel like so much of when I was saying like self-love is kind of like what I think the main like lesson or focus of my life has really been. Like to your point, like it evolves and changes as
Hmm.
we progress and as we have new experiences. I think there's like I imagine for everybody to some degree, the idea of what self-love what it is or what it looks like probably shifts and evolves as we, to your point, like grow in self-awareness or grow in relationship to self. Because I remember there was a time where my, like, I want to say, like, to me, self-love, I used the term like becoming my own best friend. Like,
Yeah, that's a good one.
how do I
Yeah,
become
yeah,
my own
yeah.
best friend? Because my inner critic was so loud all the time, and I could never like what I would say is like my inner critic wouldn't let me get away with shit. You know what I mean? Like it's like I had to be perfect, and I just saw something you posted actually today on your story saying like, you're not here to be perfect. And I thought
Hmm.
that was actually such like a timely thing given what we were going to talk about today because I feel like so much of that is like if you had a friend who would only be your friend if you were absolutely perfect, never made a mistake, were like absolutely flawless, never had a pimple, like, like never said the wrong thing at a party or, all of these things that we like beat ourselves up for on the inside, like you probably wouldn't want to be friends with them. So like I feel like it started out as just kind of recognizing like, wait a minute, like I am the only fr like frankly, like I'm the only friend that is guaranteed to be with me for the rest of my life, and I'm the only relationship that I cannot get out of. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
and I feel like it's like when you hit that level of self-awareness of realizing that the relationship you have with yourself, you can't avoid it. You can avoid it, but you
but
don't
can you?
really
You can
um
try, you can shut it
you
down,
can
but like
try,
you live
yeah,
there.
you can shut it down. I feel like I mean, and you and I have talked about, in the past of like, before our awakening and not having that level of awareness. So, yeah, I would say I was
Mhm.
probably very shut down to a lot of aspects of my life where, you know, I feel like it's like I very much lived in a fog, you
Oh,
know?
I agree that there's different levels of like awareness of your relation of having a relationship with yourself. But like
Yeah.
you're still like if you think back to even when you were in that like fog or that unawareness, like your inner dialogue was still beating you up all the time. So you
Oh, for
still
sure. And
were
I love
in
the best.
relationship with yourself. You just weren't recognizing that it was like almost like I remember the shift where it's like, oh wait, there's like all these different parts or voices that are different parts of
Yeah.
me talking versus like, oh, that's just like it's almost like, oh, those are just it was like a subconscious audio track versus,
Yeah.
but it was still in a relationship with, it was still my relationship with myself at the time,
No,
so
yeah, I see what you're
I don't
saying.
think you can get out of it, I guess is what I'm
You
saying,
know,
which
you
is why I
can't,
think
you
it's
can't,
so
no,
critical.
no, you can't. You're absolutely right. And I love the analogy of the best friend because I feel like that's the space that I go into when I want to say when I'm getting in that self-sabotage,
Hmm.
mindset, that negative Nelly in my head going, you're not good enough, like all of those, like why are you even doing this? You're not capable, those type of, I want to say little inner voices that go on, and saying, you know what, and I know you and I've talked about this before, like if this was a friend of mine and they were saying that to me, like I would not be friends with them. So it's like I
Yeah.
have to remind myself that I need to kind of boost that relationship of like, is this the type of, I want to say, is this the type of friend I want to have in my head? No, it's not. This isn't very
Yeah.
supportive. Instead of saying, and I mean, I think there's a way to turn around that dialogue too, and saying, and also giving yourself some grace. And you and I talk about that all the time. And I think that's also part of the self love is going, kind of accepting where you're at and going, it's
Hmm.
like, okay, like you're feeling all these feelings that you may not be enough, but girl, you are
Yeah.
and it's like kind of giving you that little cheerleader inner, pep talk,
Yeah.
but being okay. I think that's also that, like you were talking about earlier, like the self acceptance of like,
Hmm.
even when you're in that, like, like I suck mode,
Yeah.
and just saying, you know what, it's like you're feeling this, but this is just a moment and, it's not a mountain.
Yeah. And I think
But
that's
anyway,
such an
yeah.
interesting piece of it because I think like if you think of again, like you said, if I had a friend that talked to me that way, I just wouldn't be friends with them, right? The boundaries would go up so
Yeah.
fast. But I feel
Yeah.
like self-love has a little bit of a different flavor to it because I think a big to like to the point you were just talking about, like that self-acceptance piece requires like when you're I'm saying like self-love to me feels like the is it the antonym, the word that means the opposite of? Is that
Hmm.
how that's what
Um,
that is?
yeah, I don't know. Yes.
Antithesis. I'm trying to
I
be
don't know.
fancy
Cinnamon,
and
cinnamon,
synonym.
synonym.
It's the
The sin
cinnamon. It's the cinnamon.
the synonym.
I
Oh my
know.
God. But
No,
today it's going to
synonym
be
means the same.
synonym. No, that's what I was
Syn-
going to say is synonym, but I came across
I think it's
saying
antonym.
cinnamon. Cinnamon.
No, but cinnamon.
Because
Oh my
my
God. I keep saying cinnamon now. No, synonym is a word that means the
oh my
same
gosh, this
thing
is going to
as
come back
another
to
word,
haunt me.
right?
I can feel it.
I know this is just bad,
I know.
anyways. So whatever word means the opposite of self-abandonment is what I think self-love is, because like self-love really, like I see self-love as like widening our container to be able to hold, accept, and allow all parts of us to exist at the same time without judgment and with unconditional love. And what does that
Yeah.
look like? That looks like, fuck, I'm sad right now. Okay. Like, fuck, I'm angry right now. Okay. Like, man, I'm really building all these stories in my head about why I'm not good enough. Okay. Like I'm gonna
Yeah.
hold and anchor the like a deeper truth while at the same time saying, even when you feel like that, I love you. Even when you feel
Yeah.
like that, I'm not going anywhere. Even when you make a fool out of yourself and, face plant into the pavement, guess what? I love you and I think you're great and I'm gonna remind you you're cool. Right? Like it's that. So I do think it's like a mixed bag of both like being the cheerleader that reminds us that what we're feeling is not our whole totality while also being like the inner being that can allow all of those parts without needing to change them too. So it's a weird like the bully, to your point, the bully in my head, like I'll find myself going like, hey, like I'll notice when I'm really harsh and critical, right? I'll be like, okay, like what's going on? It's like the bully that just needs a hug. So it's kind
Yeah.
of like, how do I go like, okay, like that bully is also a part of me, or that jerk inside my head that's telling me that I'm not good enough and is nitpicking everything I've ever done. Like that's also a true and honest piece of me. You know what I mean? So it's like, how do I show her the love she clearly needs, while at the same time not, I guess, having those boundaries around not allowing that voice to become like the leader of the group. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
like the one that
Your
gets to decide.
mirror moments.
Yes. Mirror, mirror, WTF.
Yes,
Yes,
exactly.
absolutely.
And it's so funny because and this was I remember this coming through from my guides once of saying, having those conversations in the mirror with yourself, just talking those through, when you are in that mode of, but and I've always come from a space of like some comedic relief, like not today, Satan, like we're not going there, or giving myself the middle finger in the mirror, like, and it just kind of brings me back to center of just, going, okay, you're way too in your head right now. You need to get out of it. But I know you were talking about your house, but do you have like, was that your defining, I want to say, moment on your journey that you can say, okay, like I'm really starting to recognize when I'm in alignment to
To self-love.
like loving myself at a different level? Because I can look back for me, like I can look back at like periods, like even when I wasn't in my awakening state, I guess you could say, where my self-awareness was turned up to 10. But I can look back at like little fragments where I made choices in
Hmm.
my life that were in alignment to my, what I would say is my higher self. So do you have any, like, I want to say, defining moments or something that you can look back in time? It's like, okay, I'm starting to make those shifts that's leading me into this direction of, I want to say, soul evolution or self-love and
Hmm.
that type of thing.
Yeah, I would definitely say, well, I mean, I think it's like, I'm sure each of us has like a smattering of these like defining moments where we were able to, like, what I want to say is make one step closer to something that reflected what was in our best interest.
Yeah.
Especially people who I think are on more of like a growth and self-development, inner working kind of
Yeah.
state. I would definitely say like my divorce was definitely a key one. Like I didn't want to let that go, and I recognized that to want something that didn't want me or that wasn't in alignment for me anymore and had put me through so much, like to try and hold on to that would have been to harm myself. So I remember thinking like, I don't want to let this go, and for my own benefit, I need to.
Mhm.
So I think that's really probably the first time I made a huge like letting go of something that was really painful in service to myself. Definitely letting go of my house, like, and I think I see it, like I also see it in the way that like I mean, I definitely think it's funny because I could probably point out way more of my harder, more challenging moments that have instilled that self-love aspect, but I think that's because like I think to me, it's like to love myself when things are really good and I'm feeling like human sunshine. Like it's like, oh, I remind myself all the time, like I'm just so happy I'm me. Like I really like, I'll literally have conversations with myself where I'm like, I'm so happy to be you and in your body and having your experience and like being a fucking chatterbox blabbermouth like you. And like, I just like, I'll like go through all my qualities that I like and like why being me makes my experience really fun, which I think is part of self-love for me now. But that's
Yeah.
something that's like built, it's almost like because I've been able to love myself really deeply during some really challenging things that I've experienced. It's now when I'm saying, like, what I'm gonna say is what might be an affirmation or oh, I really love being you. Like, there's a part of me that actually believes myself now because I showed up for those harder times. So it's kind of like before I might do the bubble baths and the treat yourselves and the affirmations. And it was kind of like it only went skin deep. It didn't like go all the way in for a long time. Like it felt like I was almost like band-aiding something versus actually healing something. And then once, I think losing my house was probably like one of the massive, like, holy crap, this is what it feels like to hold myself fully and allow, surrender totally to who I am in this moment and what's needed, and like show up as like that inner parent who's like, I know you don't want to do this and it's for your best good. And like is
Yeah.
in full acceptance of that. And then I think when I lost my dog was another moment of like, really being in full surrender of like loving him. It's funny, it's like almost through like loving him enough to do what was necessary was also like in a way teaching me again how to hold myself even more deeply and to allow what needs to happen to happen. So it's kind of like I almost wonder if there's, and I'm sure there is, but like a connection also to just like we already kind of touched on acceptance, but surrender as a
Oh,
necessary,
surrender is
like
is
almost
is is very well, I want to say it's not always my favorite thing to do.
it's I don't think it's anyone's favorite.
You know what I mean?
It's
But I
tough.
feel like it does get a little bit easier. But the thing that keeps coming through, and I don't know whether this is my guides wanting to intercede into our little conversation here, but it's the thing that just popped in was like through our learning of self-love as you were talking through all those, I was like, you're really learning to trust your choices
Yeah.
in your evolution. And I feel like that is part of the self-love evolution is learning to trust your choices because like the more that you are in alignment to loving who you are all the way from the inside out,
Yeah.
then you go, you know what? I'm going to trust myself that I'm going to want to do things that's for my best interest all the way around. And I
Yeah.
think that that trust part is like the secret sauce of like
Yeah.
getting to that point where like, you know what? I'm just going to trust my decision making. I'm not always going to make the best decisions, but I also know that if I don't make the best decision, I'm going to be able to sit in awareness and go, okay, there was like a beautiful lesson there, even though it was hard.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, I think that is where you like if you think about being like, using the analogy of being in relationship with someone, like
Yeah.
if you're in relationship with someone, especially like let's just take the romantic relationship context because it's probably the one I would say is that's one where you are literally building a life together, right? So
Yeah.
everything they do affects you. So it's the same thing in our relationship with ourselves. So I guess like it's literally akin to being like maybe married or tied to somebody who doesn't consider you, doesn't think about you, doesn't really value you. And would you trust that every decision they make is going to factor in what's good for you as well? And it's like
Yeah.
building that trust between those two parts of yourself and like, or if you have a partner really loves you and thinks about you and considers you and wants what's truly best for you, it's like you're going to be willing to be a little bit more hands off and trust that they're going to make choices that are going to benefit you because they're not intentionally causing harm. And I think
Mm.
that's to your point, like what it's in the making choices part of it. And it's also like I think in the like not prioritizing necessarily immediate gratification or comfort over what your value is or over what's best for you. And again, best for your well-being. You know what I mean?
It's so
Kind of
it's
having
so
that leadership
funny.
and foresight.
So funny as you're saying this. I'm like, how many times have we done this to ourselves where we've ghosted or breadcrumbed ourselves?
Oh my
Like,
God.
when you're talking about relationships,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like, you're only going to show up for yourself, you know, on occasion, It's like kind of popping back in and like popping. It's like sometimes it's like you're more in like the misalignment than you are in alignment. And then it's like you'll just throw yourself a little breadcrumb.
You're like, here's a bubble bath, get over it.
I know. I know, but it's so true. It's like that's such a great analogy of looking at it of just relationships with other people. But when you're thinking about your relationship with yourself, it's like as soon as you said that, it's like thought about dating, and it's like, oh my God, how many times have I like abandoned or ghosted myself or breadcrumbed myself just because I didn't want to deal and
Right.
brushed it under the rug. It's just easier to brush it under the rug. I just don't want to deal with it today. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then it's like weeks could go by and sometimes years, months, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Well, and
It's
to
really,
that
really
point too,
crazy.
it's like it's easier for a partner to choose you during something that's good and easy than it is
Yeah.
during something that's really challenging or requires us to take a harder look at something or that requires us to be inconvenient, God forbid. Like when I think about like part of choosing myself was like I'm the type that's just like muscle through and don't let whatever's going on in life like affect work or affect all these other things. Right.
Yeah.
Well, when I was losing my house, I remember a day where I just sat in the corner and sobbed. And like
Yeah.
I had someone try and talk me out of feeling that way, like tell me why it was gonna be okay and everything was gonna be good and da 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 da. But I looked her in the face and I said, for me, loving myself looks like not denying that this is what is true in my experience right now.
Yeah.
Like to your point, how often are we gaslighting ourselves?
Yeah.
Rather than hearing ourselves, rather than like really truly empathetically listening to the truth of how we feel in a moment and like saying like, I hear you and I care and I don't need to shift it or change it. I just need to witness you. Right? Like, and I think
Yeah.
that's and like, but I want to say like if a partner or myself, like that trust of I can trust you to carry me through this and in future endeavors to make good choices. It's because like, well, when things were really hard, you still stood by me. When things were really hard, you still like you did the inconvenient thing and you let me
Yeah.
fall apart. You know what I mean? Like when everything in you is going rush, because I have like what, 5 days a week to get out of my 3 bedroom house by myself,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And like I just remember it being like there was a part of me going like, you don't have time for this. You need to be on your shit. You need to be getting stuff done. We need to da 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 da. That's the part of me that would have normally override, gaslit, breadcrumbed, right?
Yeah.
And instead I had to go like, I hear you. And like I also have to acknowledge that that part of me is the part of me that's like, I'm really stressed out and I'm feeling a little alone in moving and I'm like, this is a big change and I just am freaking out that I'm not going to get it done in time. So I had to like kind of say, I hear you to that part of me and go, and we need this other like 80% of me that is in total grief and despair. We need to tend to her first because frankly, we need her to get that done. So,
Yeah.
like, it was kind of like putting, like, maybe it was the slower route, but it was the one that was coming from love rather than dominance and rather than like override or breadcrumbing or gaslighting. And I think
Yeah.
that's why that's such a potent example for me of where I feel like what like actual self-love really rooted into an embodied place. Because again, it would have been so much easier to let all those old narratives take over and do the thing and get the thing done and shut down and emotionally dissociate. But like there was such a big part of me that was like, I really just need you to hold me for a second. And it was like I had to do that before trying to just push through. And but it was again probably added stress in other areas, but I feel like that's where I really felt like the embodiment of self-love is so beautiful, but it is not easy and it is not convenient, especially in our world that says override your needs, don't listen to how you feel for the sake of all these other things that are so important.
Yeah.
What
That's
about
awesome.
you? How has it kind of shifted for you or like what are your defining moments where you were like, "Oh shit, that's self-love."
Yeah, it's so funny because when you were talking, it just brought me back. And that's where I briefly was talking about before, I want to say what I call the big bang of my awakening. Was, I remember when I graduated high school and I was going to college and my dad was paying for my college and he told me he would not pay for an art education and I know I've shared this story before Um, because he didn't, I mean, he was looking out for my best interest. He didn't feel like I was going to be able to make any money in that. He really wanted me to take a path that he knew would be, more in alignment to survival financially, which was,
Yeah.
that's how he worked. He was very left brain and very logical and in his thinking. So like coming from someone who's like an art major and very creative, he just didn't see that as something lucrative. And I just remember just failing miserably, like dropping out of all my classes and just wasn't interested. And then I just remember going, you know what, I'm just going to drop out and I'm going to go to art school and I'm going to pay for it myself. And I remember that moment of like choosing me and
Mm,
like saying, that's your perspective of a future that you're seeing, and this is my perspective. I'm going to be in alignment to my joy and something that I know is going to bring me happiness. And I didn't know what that was going to look like. I
yeah.
ended up getting my 2-year degree in marketing, art, and design, and on that path I discovered graphic design. I was like, ooh, here's a an art degree that I'm not going to be like the starving artist. Like I can actually go into the corporate field, and I'll still be a part of the art community. And it was such a beautiful balance. And
Hmm.
I just remember that shift for myself and making that decision for myself and then applying to, I'm like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this all the way. I'm like, I'm going to apply to all the art schools in New York. I don't know if my portfolio is going to be good enough, but like I did it and I got into one of the top art schools in New York City and graduated and worked for some really cool places. I've been doing that, my story. I've been, in that design field on top of being in a medium, which is a newer thing in the last 10, 15 years, but been designer for 25 plus. So that for me, like when I look back, that's like something that I can really just feel at a deep soul level. Like it wasn't even, I want to say, I didn't feel angst about that decision. It just felt right.
Mm.
you know
Yeah.
and that's when I just knew that I was just pure alignment. Like I was just on fire. It was easy. It was in flow. um I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm just going to do this. And yeah, I mean, it was great. That part was great. I mean, I had the other obstacles, the learning boundaries, learning to be more self-aware, there's so many other aspects of my self-love journey. And again, building my relationship with myself, that took years, you
Yeah.
know.
And I think it's an
Um,
endless journey too. Like just putting it
yeah,
out there. Like I don't think we ever get off this ride.
yeah. So I
It's
was
always
kind of
people.
excited to think about that just now because I always I feel like it's like my most profound awareness happened after my awakening,
Hmm.
but then it was like that little trickle, whether again, that was my guides coming through or my higher self reminding me, like, girl, you made a really big decision for yourself in alignment to loving what you wanted to do, regardless of what someone else said. You weren't people pleasing. You weren't going, with what someone else expected of you. You were saying, this is what I want, and you did it. And that was
Yeah.
before. So I was like, oh, that's kind of exciting when I think about it. It's like I made a decision for me, even though I knew that that may not be in alignment to my dad's wishes at the time,
Yeah.
you know?
What's interesting is you're bringing that up. I hadn't thought about this in a really long time. But I actually, so for those who maybe don't know, I have very mixed feelings about my history with the military. But I was active duty for 7 years, and I had this moment as you're talking about, I'm realizing like, oh shit, that's kind of like what this was. Like I had signed my contract to go into the services before I'd even turned 17. So like I was entering my senior year of high school already signed up and basically decided I was shipping out. And like for so long, especially after getting out and after kind of what I want to say is living the consequences of that choice and all and like really having been through that experience and still to this day, working through all of the different, marks that that experience made on me and my experience. Like I had this moment where I was realizing I had this like flashback to where I was little 18-year-old me sitting on the bus on my way to be shipped out and like how scared I was. Like I just left my home, like was never going back and was on a bus on my way to boot camp. And you don't know what's coming, like, but it's this very like it's such a surreal moment, but I just remember how scared I was and how much I had to be like, we can't even think about being scared right now. We just have to like get through. Just like stay focused. Like don't even go there. And when I spent years after this experience, like almost like beating up that 18-year-old version of me for making such a stupid choice and for putting us through that. And why did I do that? There were other options. But then when I look at it from the self-love place, like actually, that version of me had the bravery and the courage to do the thing I needed her to do. And what I needed her to do was to get me out of my house. I needed her to get me out of my hometown. I needed her to get me out of a really toxic family environment. And that really was my only way out. So like,
Yeah.
I mean, because they gave me an ultimatum, it was either go to the military or go to college, but I had no money to pay for college. And if I was going to college, I would have still been living at home. And I knew for my own sanity, I had to get out of my home. Um, and so it was literal survival to like for that part of me to have made a really brave decision and to have fought through that fear and give me what I needed. Right. And
Yeah.
so, and like, and again, there were consequences and I learned a lot. And now I look back and I go, oh, all of that was so, again, listen back to soul contracts, but, definitely pre-contracted. But when I look at like, what an act of love to say this scares the shit out of me and it's what I need anyways. And so if 18-year-old me can make the tough choices in service to what I need in the moment, there was still like, I could see that as an act of self-love to your point of like, it goes against some of the ideals, not
Yes.
necessarily mine, but it goes against what it's not like a glaring like self-love choice. And yet it is one of the most self-loving choices I think I've ever made.
And I love that you look back at it now with um, such compassion
It
for
took me
your
a
18
long time.
for your 18-year-old self.
Yeah,
You know, it's really lovely when you can reflect on that. And and I feel like it's like that is a big part of self-love is sitting in the space. It's like those times when we do struggle, um, and really um, being able to love that part of ourself through the hard decisions, you
especially
know?
retroactively. I think it's kind of like
Yeah.
we forget that we carry all of those different versions of us still. Like we're
Yeah.
like we're like onions, except instead of peeling
We
back
are.
layers, we're actually just putting more and more and more on as life experience goes on. So it's like you still have your 5-year-old and you still have your 16-year-old and you still have your 22-year-old and you still have your 30-year-old and you still have all of these different layers of ages. And so it's kind of like to your point, I don't know that you can really embody self-love without also doing a retroactive, like almost like look at where you might resent or dissociate or not acknowledge parts of you that like maybe at one point you would have judged very harshly.
Yeah.
And like kind of put yourself back in their shoes and understand why they might have been doing what they did. Like when I even think about like the relationships we've been in where we're like, why the fuck did I go into that?
I
Or like,
know.
what was I doing
Yeah.
there? Right?
Yeah.
Like there was a part of us that was actually trying to meet our needs. There was a
Yeah.
part of us that was like trying to love and be loved or trying to find security and safety or like so and even in that it's like how can you fault that part of you who like didn't know how to do it differently, but really was trying to like to show up. You know what I mean? Or like just didn't know what they didn't know. And I think you can't really like I don't think it's possible to love yourself now without also working through how do I love, accept, and acknowledge all these previous versions of me that still exist within me and loving them too. Like they're part of the foundation of the now.
Yeah, truly. I mean, I think about I want to say all of those dots connecting.
Hmm.
It's like so many times I feel like, I don't want to start over. I don't want to, and it's like, oh, you're not going to be starting over. You've gained so much wisdom and knowledge and strength and courage over the years. And it's like sometimes we kind of forget that, and we have to remind ourselves, like, oh my gosh, we got to look at the dots that have connected all of the points to where you are now.
Yeah.
And then just really celebrate that, where you're at. That whole you're exactly where you're meant to be,
Hmm.
which is really lovely. And I think too, I think with the trusting the choices, now that that's kind of bubbled to the surface, I'm really, it's really exciting. And it's like, I found a video the other day that I actually put it on a reel of talking about, that part of ourselves that shows up when things happen. And we get so caught up in the what ifs and the could this could happen and that could happen or not happen. And we forget to trust that, you know what, you're kind of badass. You've been through a lot, and look at where you're at, and you can handle that. Like, you know what I mean? It's like you haven't reached that point, and that part of yourself or that timeline will show up,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, and I
and you'll
think
figure it out.
well, and I think loving yourself now as best as you can and becoming your own best friend is the
Yeah.
piece that instills the ability to trust future you to
Yeah.
navigate whatever comes.
Like she's got this. She's
Like,
got this.
like how many
Yeah.
curveballs has life thrown at you? This comes through in readings all the time for me. Spirit will always be like, how many curveballs has life thrown you? And how many times did you think something would go one way and it actually went that way? Like it's always different than you think it's going to be, and it never looks like what we're expecting. And yet
I
we've
know.
always been okay. And we, even when things were hard, like you make it through and like things change and it's very Wheel of Fortune in the tarot. Like what comes up is going to come down. Like it's just like, so I think but it's funny because they'll always say in readings, like, peace isn't about knowing what's going to happen next. Peace
Yeah.
is an energetic of trusting yourself to figure out whatever is going to come next.
So true.
And like letting future you, like really just believing in future you. But again, I don't think you can really rest easy in that until you're feeling like you can trust, through am I listening to myself? Do I care about myself? When I have a feeling, do I listen? Do I have boundaries? Am I listening to my discernment? Am I like when the red flags of my intuition are going
It's a
off?
lot of inner chatter.
It's a lot of inner
because
chatter,
because I would
but
say it's so much easier said than done, because I can't tell you how many times, like, I can, and I mean, I think the beautiful thing about, I want to say, this journey in general is we could sit through the self-awareness and I'm in this space, I'm in that space, and yeah, I'm giving you grace, but it's like I feel like a lot of times I guess it's like how long you sit in the chatter, I think, is the evolution.
yeah.
And however long you sit in the chatter, brushing under the rug, I mean, I feel like those patterns will always pop up for us. It's just a matter of, I guess, how long you sit in the mud, um, you
Yeah.
know, uh, is the part that, like any relationship, the choice is yours.
Well, I think how
Yeah.
long you sit in it and how you receive yourself when you're in the mud.
So true.
Like
Oh
it's
my
like
gosh,
what
so
it like
true.
to give yourself permission to say, all right, fine, I'm in the mud. Stay there as long as you need to. I love you. We'll be here.
Yeah.
That's actually what gets you out of the mud. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
kind of like, but you can't come from a place of like, I'm going to say this so that you get the hell out of the mud. It's more like, I think it's so much more because again, like, it's that I don't expect anyone to be perfect. It's like, be where you are and I love you. It's fine. Right. Like,
Yeah.
so I think there's like, I do think to your point, like, trusting future you is about like, well, I just feel like it's more like, am I trying? Like, I think if you can recognize that now you is trying and
Yeah.
past you was always trying and now you is still going to make mistakes, but you've got a lot of you've learned a lot and you're doing your best to leverage what you've learned and to learn how to, like, what I want to say is I would trust a partner who was telling me I'm trying to learn how to love you better and I'm gonna make some mistakes than I
Yeah.
would someone who won't even acknowledge that I'm having a feeling, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's so much less
Someone who's
about,
going to ghost you.
yeah, exactly. Oh my God, I'm triggered. No,
I'm so triggered right now.
but I
Uh,
do think like it's kind of like uh again, like if you can hold yourself now, then I think you can trust yourself to hold yourself in the future because learning how to hold yourself now is the skill
Yeah.
that will get you through whatever's next. So I think that's where that's and I think it's funny because when we look back, I think all of us can go, wait a minute, if you really look at it, you have always shown up and you have always held yourself, right? We might have made bad choices that were like, oh, maybe that wasn't the best thing for me. But like we're aware of it and we're, you know what I mean? We were always there. It's just a matter of like, oh, how might I want to be there a little bit more consciously for myself?
So true.
So when you're having a moment of like, what are your key markers or like red flags where you're like, oh, I don't think this is self-love anymore.
I think I want to say, I feel like I'm, because I'm a lot more self-aware now, I feel like it's less and less, but I think one of the biggest things that pops to mind for me what would be balance, I guess, work-life balance for me. I Whenever I wouldn't want to deal with just things, I would kind of get lost in my work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I did that in my marriage a lot because I was really unhappy and I didn't want to deal.
Yeah.
So I would, work extra hours. A lot of times I didn't really have a choice because my workload was insane. Um, but, I made choices to work, 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 work. And I want to say that's when the self-care or work-life balance, I definitely, there's a big chunk of my life where I could say I worked more than I lived.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where I feel the most misaligned for me. And I mean, there's so many points I could point out too, like, were times where I just didn't say no, like I talked about earlier, like I said yes a lot, because I didn't want to, I was a people pleaser, so I never wanted to say no. And next thing you know, I'm overwhelmed and I'm exhausted and I'm fried and I'm
Yeah.
not thinking about my own well-being. Um, and I've learned over the years to say no, create
Yeah.
boundaries, to say, you know what, this is what's achievable. That's what I can, and that's been a big shift in me is like learning to say no
Yeah.
to things that just like, I'd really love to do this. And I'm also getting really good at communicating. It's like, I'd love to do this, but like, what is your timeline? Or can this wait till next week? This sounds really exciting, but I just can't take it on right now. Or, you know, or just, yeah, just working through just communication has been, I want to say, my big achievement in self-love is just talking things through versus bottling them up and suppressing too
Yeah.
has been really, really huge. And that's been a big change in all of my relationships, work and personal, is like saying if something doesn't feel right, is talking it through. It's like, oh my gosh, I feel so much lighter from just
Yeah.
talking that through versus like holding it in and being angry or being upset or disappointed. Now it's like I'd rather just get it out.
Mhm.
Sometimes I have to pick my timing a little bit better, but for the most part. But what about you? Like, where's your red flags?
I think anytime I feel like an internal sense of pressure or franticness, like if I'm feeling like there's a pressure behind something, it's
Yeah,
usually not coming from a place of self-love. Because again, there's part of me that's going like, if I'm feeling pressure from the inside, it means to me, it means there's some state in which I'm in that another part of me is not allowing. Like
yeah.
if I'm
Pressure
like
meaning like anxiety
I
or
would say, well, anxiety, yeah, I would say anything that's connected to anxiety is probably like something that's not connected to self-love. But
yeah,
like when I'm feeling pressure, like if I'm like, I need to know what I'm gonna do about my business, or I feel like I have to add a new service, or I need to hurry up and figure out how I'm gonna make more money, or I need to figure out the like where I get into this like very
more like what's next? The what's next?
the
What's next? What's next?
in not from a natural, organic, inspired place, because I think we
Yeah.
can be in the what's next dream place of like, oh, that would be exciting, or that feels inspired, or that feels cool. So, like, for
Yeah.
instance, like I just did a rebrand on my business, but like 3, 4 weeks ago, I was feeling maybe even a little longer than that. I was like, oh, I need to rebrand. And it was like, but I think I was feeling the timing of a rebrand coming, but it wasn't ready yet, right? It's not time.
Yeah.
There was a piece of me that was going, I'm ready to rebrand. And there's another part of me that's going, yeah, but I'm not quite sure what it looks like yet, right? And because I was struggling to love myself in the in between, the part of me that's like, but you should already know. You're not enough. You're
Yeah.
failing. You're falling behind. You're losing
We get
time. Da, da,
impatient
da, da.
with wanting to things to go now. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's the piece of me that thinks I'm not lovable or that there is something wrong with me if I don't know, or if I'm not at that milestone already, or if I'm not like keeping up with the Joneses, or if I'm comparing myself to someone on Instagram who seems to have everything together and they seem to have figured it out. So why can't I? Right. Or like it's all of this, or like I'll even find like there will be narratives around like, well, I have to get that together in order for this other thing I really want to happen. Right.
Yeah.
Like I'll even find these like narratives of like, well, that's like the reason I haven't found a romantic partner that's a good fit yet, is because like I have to get my business together so that I can have that. But what am I telling myself? I'm telling myself, ooh, yeah, you're not enough yet. Ooh, you're not lovable yet. Ooh, you haven't hit that marker of you're allowed to have what you want yet because you don't deserve it yet. Right. So when I feel that frantic pressure to have to figure something out, or there's this like, just like, it's very like an annoying buzzy energy that comes in with something, that's
Yeah.
usually my key that it's connected to the part of me that is feeling like I'm not enough. And that's to me, again, if
You got to
any,
give her a hug.
absolutely. And I try my best,
She needs a hug.
which is why I took 3 weeks off from trying to
Yeah.
rebrand, because it wasn't
Yeah.
there. And then I was sitting on my computer the other day working on something else, and I was like, oh, what about that? And it kind of just came in its own timing, right? And then it felt very organic to be like, oh, I'm updating it, and now I've rebranded and it feels really good. But it's because I gave it time to marinate, right? Because I know that feeling of franticness isn't going to produce anything that's actually in alignment with me. That's going to produce something that I think is in alignment with what others think I should be. And that's the opposite of self-love. Self-love goes, I don't conform to your idea of me. I honor the reality of me. And it's
Yeah.
messy and it doesn't always look great and it's not always palatable, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea. But so I feel like it's kind of, if I'm in that very like, yeah, anxious, frantic, buzzy, if there's pressure of like, I need to hurry up and da da da, or I need to da da da, that's when I know that I'm probably delineating from self-love and going more into what other people expect of me.
Yeah, I can that totally resonates with me too. I mean, I definitely can relate to all of that. And I feel like, it's like whenever we hear the word all in divine time, you just want to give them the middle finger, because it's like, I don't want to hear divine timing. I want it now. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And then I think we forget, and it's like I know I've heard Esther Hicks say, if the universe gave you everything that you desired all at once, like how boring is that? You know what I mean? Um,
there's a part of me that doesn't believe that
I
though.
know.
I know it's true, and
I
another part of me
know.
is
I
like, okay,
know.
but then I would just come up with new desires
No,
because
I
it'll
know,
never
but
be enough, right?
it
It's
will never be enough. I
one
know. I
desire always
know.
sparks another.
I know, but there is some truth there for
There
sure,
is.
and I feel like it's like I really believe that, and it's, sometimes it's hard to see it in the moment, but I know when you look back and you connect the dots of your life, you really start to understand, like, oh, okay, this needed to happen in order for this to happen, or that had to unfold for this to unfold, or for me to have this other experience.
Yes.
So I that really resonates with me, and I love that, that I'm sorry that you go through that. Because I go through it too. I feel like
Oh,
I think every one of us goes through,
yeah.
those moments where, we have that pressure on the inside, and the external validation. It's also, it's such a difficult time too, because, we do have, social media and everything on the internet. And,
Hmm.
there is, they say comparison is the thief of joy, which is so true, but it's also very difficult. But we also never know people's journeys behind, what we see as like a map to success. We don't know what was behind them to get to that point either.
Yeah.
So their journey could have been really difficult to get where they are, where we think is theirs, or, and people could, I like to think too, there's parts of our journey that people are like, oh, I wish I was where you are. So I feel like, it's just, you know, I
Yeah.
don't want to say relative,
Oh, it is.
but
Absolutely.
yeah,
Well, and as we're
but
talking, my guides just gave me the phrase, there are no milestones in self-love. So it's
hmm,
like, and when they're giving me that, it's kind of like there are no points at which you like earn it. Like there's no like accomplishment metric for like, oh, now you've earned it. Like self-love is literally the act of removing milestones
yeah, that's,
that would
oh,
cause you to
spirit's awesome.
withhold love from yourself.
I love your
Like
guides.
I do too.
That
Like
was
that
lovely.
I
That was a
know.
lovely, like, little nugget.
Yeah, you'll
Yeah.
know that you're not in self-love if there's ever a milestone of, well, I can have love when, or I can be kind to myself when, or I can let up on myself when. Like it's kind of like that's like self-love says where we are is fine. Where we are is enough, even if it doesn't look like what we may have wanted it to look like. So I kind of love that. There are no milestones in self-love, which is
I love
lovely.
that. And
Hmm.
I think that's a great wrap it up for
I,
us.
I think so. Oh my God, we're on time.
So we can go into, we don't have a
Look at
jingle
our
song,
growth.
but
Look
I
at our growth.
know. But thank you, Spirit, because I feel like Spirit brought that in for us as I want to say a nice ending note,
I
which
think
is really
so.
beautiful, that self-love has no milestones. So people hold on to that beautiful nugget. So should we go into titty bits?
Teddy
I'm gonna let you start this one off because I tell everybody today what our subject is for
Yeah.
our titty bit moments, and then I'll intercede whatever I can to this subject matter.
Okay. I have a feeling that you've already forgotten what we were going to talk about because I'm
No, I
pretty
didn't
sure
forget.
you know this one.
Wait, which
Uh,
one were
what
I
did
don't
you think
remember
we're
which one would
doing?
you. I thought we were going to talk about the moon cycles.
Girl, this is, yeah, no, we switched it.
We switched it. Okay,
But we
that's right. We
can, we can talk
did.
moons.
No, that's okay.
Oh
We
my God,
can.
I love that so much. The
Happy
way you
new moon,
introduced it, I was like,
everybody.
she thinks we're still doing moons, which we might in the
Yeah,
future.
see, this is where my brain is. It's just
That's
like,
fine.
geez,
Oh,
Louise,
I just think it's
people.
so funny.
I
Yes,
know. No,
happy
we were talking about. Oh, we were talking about spirit
messages.
messages.
Yeah, so today's titty bits, a little
Oh,
nugget of knowledge straight from our hearts, is we're just both going to share a message that's come through in a reading that's stuck with us.
yeah.
You have
Did
one
you
on the
want
top
to?
of mind? I have one I can share.
I do. And and it's I have so many beautiful nuggets of wisdom,
I know it's
but
hard to pick one.
I feel like it's like I want to say for anyone who's ever lost a loved one, because I think you can't go through this journey without losing somebody. But um, one of the things I that feels felt the most profound for me, and this was a father coming through for a daughter, and you know, his message to her was, whenever you're looking at a photo or you're thinking of a memory or um, just when you put someone, when you put, he basically said, when I'm in your thoughts, just know that my soul is standing right next to you
Mm.
as you're looking at that picture, you're thinking about that moment, that it's evokes when we think of our loved ones on the other side, the energy, it's like pulling them in, their essence of who they are, who they were, what they meant to you, like comes close. It's like no matter what they're doing on the other side, it's like that energy connection just, I want to say, it just flies by your side. And just know that, when you're thinking of memories or different experiences that you had together, just know that that actually pulls their soul right next to you, that they're you may not be able to see them or their presence, their physical presence isn't with you, but know that their soul's with you. And I just thought that was really beautiful.
That is so beautiful.
I know.
I
I
love
know.
that
That's
too.
warm and fuzzy to me because it's nice
So
because
warm
you
and
often wonder,
fuzzy.
it's like, I'm not getting any signs. A lot of people go, I'm not getting any signs from my loved ones. And it's like, but when you're thinking about them or you're, looking at cherished memories or whatever, I love that he said because when a person does that, it's like it pulls their energy and their soul essence like right next to you. So know that they're in the room with you. It's like so many times in a reading, it's like, oh, you were looking through a photo album recently with me in it. That's when they're saying, yeah, I was there with you because you were thinking of me. So that's know that you're pulling their soul in. And that was just like total tearjerker for me. It was
Oh, I
so
love
beautiful, so
that.
beautiful. But how about you?
Nowhere
What you
near as
got,
warm
girl?
and gushy. And I actually kind of shared one of the ones, the like trusting your future self, to handle
Yeah.
what's next and the like what inner peace actually is. That was one of them, but I already shared that in the episode. So the other one that I think comes through in a lot of readings, and if one of my clients is listening, they've probably heard it come up if they've done more than like a couple readings with me. Spirit will always show me these pathways, and they'll be like, you want to like they always show me two hiking trails, and one is like lined with broccoli and the other is lined with chocolate bars. I promise
Is
this
that
is
your is
going
that your
somewhere.
is that your like visual cue? Is that your symbol from with spirit,
For this
broccoli and
message.
chocolate
Well,
for
so
this particular
for this
message?
particular message, yes. So
Oh my God,
like
I love this so
but
much.
they'll go like the world will tell you that if you want a giant chocolate bar, that you've got to take the trail of all the broccoli and you've got to eat it. So all that broccoli, and then you can have your chocolate bar. They're like, doesn't it make more sense that the trail that's littered with chocolate is gonna be the one that has a giant chocolate bar at the end? And so they
Yeah.
always just remind, like, they always use that as an example. You guys, you try not to laugh at me. My guides work in funny ways. But like they always use that as a reminder of like the journey itself. If like it's like the if you want the destination to feel good, the journey itself will reflect something that feels good. So it's like you
But
don't have it's
broccoli?
it's this I actually like broccoli, but it's like there's this mentality that we have to suffer to deserve something good. So it's like, wouldn't it make sense that like by making choices that feel like chocolate are going to lead you to more chocolate rather than, okay, I don't want this, but I'm going to eat it to get where I want to go and hopefully I'll feel better at the end versus like actually if I'm making like I guess in a way it's manifestation like if I'm feeling into the energy of what success feels like and it feels really good, then the decisions I'm making along the way I'm looking for that same satisfaction, that same feeling.
So you're saying, so I feel like I'm confused. Um
Yeah, I mean
I
maybe
feel,
this
I
was
feel
not the
like
right message for me.
no, 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 that's okay. No, that's okay. No,
Oh
this
my
is
God.
really good. So you're saying it's kind of like manifesting. So like if I'm wanting like the chocolate bar,
Yes, you
like
want
I need it's envisioning yourself on the path of the chocolate bar, not on the path of the broccoli. Or you're saying I need to go on the path of the broccoli to get to
no,
the chocolate bar.
no, the opposite. So so you're neither envisioning yourself on a path of chocolate or eating the broccoli. It's neither. They just use
Okay.
that as an example of like, let's just say this usually comes up when someone's like, I really want to be doing this really creative job, but I'm going to just pay my dues in this other job I hate to get there.
Gotcha, 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 gotcha.
Right?
All
It's
right.
like I'm going to like I have to do all of these things that I really hate and I don't enjoy in order to get that thing at the end. That's like eating a bunch of broccoli expecting it to lead to a chocolate bar.
Gotcha. All right. All
Okay.
right. So
Versus like if the
I'm
path
a little slow
itself,
tonight.
no, 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 I'm glad you asked
Slow.
because if you were confused, I'm sure everybody listening was too. Versus like if I'm going like, oh, collaborating with them feels good. Oh, and then this feels really good. Oh, and then that feels really good. Eventually, it's leading you towards like that's the energetic alignment to your giant chocolate bar because it feels like eating chocolate versus I'm gonna like have to pay my dues and eat all this fucking broccoli and do all this shit that I hate in the hopes
Yeah.
that eventually it's going to produce an outcome and a different energetic outcome.
Yeah.
but where we're investing our energy is the outcome.
Gotcha.
So that's how they always give it when they're like it's just always my reminder for the client of like maybe we're framing something in a way that it thinks that we have to earn joy or that we have to suffer in order to have something we want,
I gotcha.
or where where just paying attention to like this the journey should be sweet too.
You know what that reminded me of? This is totally probably not even close to
Tell me.
I kept seeing as you were saying all of that, I was like, oh, it's kind of like ET with the Reese's Pieces.
Yes, it's literally that because at the end he found
Yeah,
there were a bunch of Reese's Pieces.
I know.
Right. No, it is. It's literally
It's
that.
like it's like, oh, there's like a little trail
Yes,
of like,
exactly.
oh, I'm just gonna pick this up. This is delicious. And then it got you to where you wanted to go.
Right.
But the only thing is like in that instance, it was someone else leading them somewhere else. But
Yeah.
it could be we could look at it from our higher selves. Our
It's the
higher
metaphor.
selves
Yes,
is
exactly.
giving us the trail of Reese's Pieces to get us where we want to go, or our spirit guides or angels, however you want to do it, or divine source, God,
Right.
D, all of
And
you above.
right.
So
It's all
yeah.
just the reminder of like when you follow your joy, it will lead you to something joyful.
I will die laughing hysterically if all of a sudden I start seeing in readings Reese's Pieces trails
Reese's
and chocolate and broccoli.
trails of broccoli and trails of chocolate.
Chocolate. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
no,
wouldn't be
it's a good one.
surprised. I love how spirit works. That's
No.
really funny.
Well, and
Yeah.
that one's always my like it's like when I'm making decisions between things I want to do, it's like, okay, that's kind of my energetic marker of like, okay, does this feel like I feel like I have to eat the broccoli in order to have dessert?
Yeah.
Or does this feel like I want dessert and so I'm getting dessert?
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
So, but yeah, so that one always sticks with me, and that one probably comes out. They use that one with me all the time in reading. So it's one of my ones I have like a
That's
main
a
symbol
that's a
for.
good one. That's a
Like,
good one.
so
You know, and I love that. Do you hear the cats in the back?
no.
Wow.
Meow.
You have dogs. I got 5 cats now.
Five.
Um crazy. Um, but you know what we haven't done at the end here, and I love that. I'm glad that we got to share that, and I hope everybody was able to take a little takeaway from that. But we've never shared at the ends of our podcast. Deanna, where can someone go to book a reading with you or a
Oh,
session with you?
oh, well, I have my website, which is practically-spiritual.com, or my Instagram, practically_spiritual, and there's a book now button in my bio, and you can book there. Or you can always, if you want to email wiredforwoo@gmail.com, we both have access to that email, and you can book with either of us there. You just send it there, and we'll make sure it gets where it needs to go. What about you, Angelique?
I am just walkingom.com. And I'm also, you know, it's so funny. It's like, I have no idea what my Instagram or my TikTok account. I think it's Angelique underscore
Psychic
psychic
medium.
medium. Yeah. And that's your Instagram and accounts. Are they all the same? Are they practically spiritual? Did you just say it and I just missed it?
Yeah, I said both.
Okay.
So yeah,
Say it
it's just
again
my
for
website
the
is practically dash spiritual. My Instagram is practically_spiritual.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm Angelique underscore psychic medium on Instagram and on TikTok.
Yeah,
TikTok. And I
and yeah,
think also some other ones. I don't know. I'm all over the place.
yeah.
Sky and with threads and all of those. I'm the same handle. So
Can we go back to MySpace, please?
I
Oh
know.
my God,
I know it's crazy. But
it's too much.
this was a great episode.
This
I feel like
was,
I love talking love and I love talking, you know, just transformation and change within ourselves, you know, and the choices that we make and trusting in the self-acceptance and the self-awareness and compassion for ourselves and being our own BFF. And I think it was all really good.
yeah, I do too. And as we wrap up, just a reminder, if there's anything that you want us to cover or a topic, or you can write into us with anything going on in your life, and if we can make an episode out of it, we will, or even a titty bit if you just have a gee whiz question. But we really do invite, you guys to let us know what you'd like to hear about because we come up with the topics we want to talk about, but we'd be jazzed if you guys had something that would be helpful for you too. So
Yes,
again,
indeed.
email or message us. You got all of our socials now. Or again, you can email both of us at wiredforwoo@gmail.com. All
Yeah.
right, I think that's a wrap.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.